So here we are. I'm not sure how much of this you're going to see. First attempt at an in-car video in the Tesla. So on the screen, everything basically is operated through this screen. There are really only two major buttons in the whole car, which are on the steering wheel, and they obviously change depending what function you're doing at the time. But the screen really covers everything. On this side, you've got your Google Maps and the navigation. And on this side, all the information needed for operating the car, really. The speedometer at the top, the battery life, whether you're in park, reverse, neutral or drive. You could do some quick switches here just to open the front boot and the rear boot. The charger port can be opened here. Tells you what speed there is on the road that you're on. And there's a few quick touch buttons down here, but I'm not going to go through everything in detail. I will do a video on every single function and button that this amazing car has, or this amazing screen has. But for now, we're just going to put our foot on the brake. And I'll talk to you as we're driving around really about my favorite things about this car after just 4 weeks and 1,200 miles. And then maybe a couple of things that I didn't quite like so much, and then I'll go into another video where we'll get zoomed in on this screen so you can see it in much more detail. But for now, you just push the stick down into drive and we're ready to move off. One of the first things that you notice when you drive one of these cars is how quiet it is, first of all. Obviously with no petrol engine, there's not much noise apart from a few warnings on sensors there. And here we go. Right, okay, now, so I've had the car just over 4 weeks. It's been a bit of a sort of 2-year plan, really. It started for me when I had solar fitted, and you can take a look at that video if you want. I then did a video on ordering the car, which you can also see. And I've done a sort of a video recently last week about the setup at home, on how I currently charge this car using the solar, and so I get very little cost for any of the mileage that I currently do. But one of the things, so let me start firstly by one of the first things that you'll notice if you drive a Tesla, and that is definitely well, the acceleration of the car, which I'll come on to, but the one pedal driving. It's very similar to an automatic car, except when you lift your foot off the throttle in an electric car, you have regenerative braking, which slows the car down. It's the resistance in the electrical motor that causes that. So the brakes aren't being applied, but the regenerative braking will actually eventually get you to come to a stop, and just at that last moment is when the brakes are applied. But for this, approaching this roundabout now, I just slowed down just using the throttle, so I haven't applied the brakes at all. And it'll be similar now behind this car on this red light. I won't need to apply the brakes. I can just come off the accelerator, and it takes a bit of getting used to, but I'm literally talking 10 minutes, and you'll wonder why you haven't driven like this your entire life. So I haven't touched the brake yet at all. Just back on the accelerator. So when you take your foot off and the regenerative braking comes into play, it will bring the car to a complete stop. There is a setting which allows it to creep forward, but I have it on hold, so it'll just hold, even on a hill. So even if you stop on a hill, the handbrake is applied automatically, and you just press the accelerator again and the handbrake's released, and off you go. So I'm going to take you down a little bit of a country road first of all. Typical, just started raining now. It's a bit of a sun shower. And when I get to, there's a sort of A road that we'll get on, I'll talk to you then about the second thing that is incredible about this car, which is Autopilot. There are two levels of Autopilot, or two levels of assisting you drive. The first is traffic aware cruise control, and that does exactly what it sounds like. It monitors the vehicles in front. These cars, by the way, have 9 cameras, 8 pointing out, 1 pointing in, and those cameras, along with LiDAR, monitor everything around you. And you can see, if you can, on this side of the screen, you'll see a representation of what the car is seeing as we're driving along. So you can see the road markings. You can see that I'm currently over the middle line because it's a narrow road. As other traffic comes, you'll see those vehicles coming towards us, so the car is monitoring everything that is happening around it the whole time. So the traffic aware cruise control does exactly what it says. It monitors the vehicles in front, and you can set it for, say, 60 miles an hour, but if the car in front is only doing 45, then you'll do 45. You literally have to worry about nothing. You can take your foot off the accelerator. Even if you're in town traffic where, you know, it's stop and start, the car will just do all of that for you. And if the car, you know, pulls over or gets out the way, you'll accelerate up to the maximum speed that you've set. Autopilot is the next stage on from there, and Autopilot includes auto steer, where the car will actually steer itself along with the cruise control that's traffic aware. There is a further stage to that called full self-drive, but in the UK, in my opinion, at the moment, that definitely isn't worth the extra premium of currently in June 2020. It's a figure of £5,800, and the only difference between what you get as part of the package in this car and that is Summon, which I would never use, where you can call the car on your phone and it will come out of a car park space for you. Self-parking, which again is something I'd probably maybe use once and never use again. The one thing that it does do, which I really would like, and if it was an option, if you're listening, Elon, which I'm sure you're not, but if you were, the ability on Autopilot to be able to just indicate and let the car change lanes without disengaging Autopilot, I think would be brilliant, and I would definitely be up for that. But at the moment that doesn't exist. So we're going to do a really good test now because it's bloody raining, and we're going to try Autopilot on an A road, which we're just about to join now. So again, I'm slowing down for this junction. I've not touched the brake since I left the house. And here we go. So on the screen in front of me, you can see that we're on a 40 mile an hour, we've just gone to 60. You can see a little grey steering wheel. I hope you can see it anyway. That means that I could use Autopilot now if I wanted to. It's available on this road. It's perfect in my view for dual carriageways and motorways. I drove to London the other day, and probably on the M4, I've got to say probably 90% of the time I was on Autopilot. But we'll put it onto Autopilot now. So you just use the right-hand stalk, tap down twice, and Autopilot's now engaged. I'm taking my foot off the throttle. I don't need to be steering the car. That's going to be done automatically. The car will warn you if you're not paying attention, not keeping your hands on the wheels. Providing you're resting your hand on the wheel, that's enough to tell the car you're there. If you let go of the wheel, then it will actually at some point warn you. You can tell you're in Autopilot by the 2 blue lines and the blue symbol there. It's going to warn me now in a second to put my hands on the steering wheel. At the moment, this is a 60 mile an hour road. Here we are, there's the warning. If I ignored that warning, you get a blue light flashing. Just a little tag on the steering wheel, gets rid of that warning. Here we are in a 60 mile an hour speed limit, but the car in front's doing 50. I've set this car so that it is 7 car lengths from the car in front. You can actually reduce that even further down to 3, but I like to keep a bit of a distance. And I'm fully aware, my hands are near the wheel, if not on the wheel. I'm not steering, but I'm fully aware. of what my surroundings are, and if I needed to take over, I could do that quite easily. I would imagine these cars will slow down a bit because there's a few twists and turns coming now, and I certainly wouldn't want to be there we are. We've actually entered a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit now, so the car has automatically said auto steer will now be reduced down to 40 miles an hour. So if these cars are going faster than 40, we'll stay at 40, and it's getting through those lanes pretty well. I haven't steered any of that. The car manoeuvred those turns completely on its own. And so we're going to come out of a 40 now in a moment. Obviously the cars are being a bit going off ahead, but we'll let the car do what it's going to do. I can see the sign up ahead of us now to take us up to 60, so we'll let the car do that of its own accord. Yeah, we are. It's changed to 60 now, so the car's starting to accelerate up to 48 already. I'll set that up to 60. Again, it won't go to 60 now because the cars in front are probably doing about 50 miles an hour. So as soon as it's caught up to 7 car lengths, then it'll stop there, and it'll keep those 7 car lengths away from them. So as you can see, Autopilot works really well. It does mean that the journey is a lot less tiring. You know, the trip I did the other day to London and back in a day, you'd normally feel absolutely shattered after that. But honestly, you know, it's much more relaxing. You're not worrying about half the things you have to worry about in a car. As long as you're focusing and keeping attention, obviously, that's all you need to do. So the car up ahead now, the one in front of the one in front of us, is braking to turn left. So my car is automatically braking. I'm not touching anything. It's down to 32, and now it'll start to accelerate away as the car in front moves away. So it really is a clever function. I mean, it's incredible. It's, you know, you can see how the future's laid out in front of us and how this is just going to get better and better. To disengage Autopilot, if you want to do that at any time, you simply go up on the stalk, and that disengages Autopilot and disengages cruise control. So I've now got full control. If you don't want to do that in an emergency, just by moving the steering wheel or hitting the brake or hitting the accelerator will also disengage Autopilot. But the best and smoothest way to do it is one push up on the stalk to disengage it. So I'm going to turn around now and talk to you about a few other things, about things I like about the car. So just bear with me while I find a suitable place to spin round. Okay, managed to spin round at just by the old Goiter Arms, which looks very sad and quiet at the moment. Hopefully will be opened in a couple of days' time if the don't want to be political, but if the Welsh government pull the finger out, we should get the pubs back open. So here we are, back on our way, just doing the return trip. So the next thing I just wanted to talk to you about, we've spoken about the car, a couple of things actually. Firstly, charging and what it's like to live with an electric car. It is not an issue at all. You can check out a video I filmed last week about my home setup and how solar creates 95% of the energy I use in this car. But even without solar, you know, it's so easy to set a schedule with a tariff. You know, if you're on a tariff where you get cheap electricity, you can set the car to charge up in the middle of the night. So every morning you wake up, you've got a full battery, or battery to whatever level you decide to fill it up to. And I did a trip to London and back just a few days ago, and you know, it was a doddle. Tesla's supercharger, which is the next thing I want to talk about, network is fantastic. It really separates Teslas from lots of other vehicles in the electric vehicle market. I went into Reading, 20-minute stop, did some paperwork ready for the filming I was doing later in London, and that got me enough range added, so I had plenty of range. I think I was in London with something like 150 miles of range. And then on the way back out, I stopped at Membry services again, I popped in, used the loo. My bladder range is less than this car range. Bought a sandwich, sat outside, ate the sandwich, That's very kind of you. And then by the time I got in the car, it had 101 miles in about 20 minutes, which was more than enough to get me home. And I arrived home with something like 90-mile range. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, I'm just going to pull into this lay-by. So the supercharger network, absolutely awesome, can't fault it. You get a free, if you are looking to buy a Tesla, do use a referral code. Mine's in the description below, but even if you don't use mine, use somebody's, because you get 1,000 miles of supercharger miles for free, and you get that, and the person's code. The person who gave you the code gets that, so it's a win-win really. I wanted to show you this next step because it's the acceleration of this car, and luckily there's a tractor behind us, which is taking a while. So I'll just pump this so you can see. This actually is the slowest. There we are, we're on 60 already. This actually is the slowest of the 3 Teslas that you can buy, but will still do 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, which is a good two seconds off my last car, which is an Audi A5. The long range, this is the standard range plus vehicle. The long range version of this car will actually do that 0 to 60. It'll take a second off that. I think it's 4.4 for the long range dual motor. And the performance model will take even more time off that. I think it's 3.2. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's something like 3.2. So acceleration is like no other car. And because there's no lag, it's instant torque. It just feels like, the closest thing that it feels like is like one of those roller coasters when you get on there and you know that it's magnets that are taking you forward, the electric motors. It feels like that. So it's incredible from an acceleration point of view. So that's probably the top 5, I guess, of things I love about this car already. The screen, I'm going to go into more details. It's another one. You've just a quick highlights of it. I can stream Spotify, I can watch Netflix, I can watch YouTube. Not while you're driving, obviously, but you can stream Spotify when you're driving if you've got an account, or you can use the Tesla account for it. The sat nav is superb. I've got satellite views, buttery smooth of the tiles coming in and out, looks awesome. There's nothing really not to like. As far as things, I guess, that you might need to be aware of, I think the sales process here isn't great, particularly if you try and ring up for support while you're buying the car. I found that to be pretty poor. In fact, I probably left during the buy-in of the car, I probably left 3 messages and not one got responded to. The local place that you buy your car from, very different, really down to the people that run there and work there. I got mine from Bristol. A guy called Chris was awesome, brilliant, couldn't be more helpful. So that is very different. There's no showrooms as such to go to and things like that. So it's a new company really into Britain in some respects. So I guess those things might take time. It's worth the sacrifice in my view. Then you've also got the issue of build quality. There's a lot of good and bad thoughts about that. From my own point of view, yeah, there were a few issues on this car with panel alignment on the front bumper, which they sorted, and it's not really sorted to my satisfaction yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. There was a couple other little things that Tesla had taken care of straight away. There was a crack in the mirror, tiny little chip in the bottom of the mirror. There's a tiny mark on one of the door cassettes, which they're replacing. They haven't done that yet. I took the car to Bristol Service Centre, and they were fine. They did a few other little bits for me. The couple of things they couldn't quite do on that day, they've now arranged for the mobile engineer to come out, and he'll do those at my house. So that's quite convenient. But I would say the fit and finish, I don't think is quite there with the likes of Mercedes, BMW, that type of thing. That being said, it ain't bad. The materials are good in here. I think they've improved. I think probably, the Model 3, which is the latest model, is probably better than the previous models. But you know, but they're young. It's a new company in comparison to a lot of the other car manufacturers that have been going hundreds of years. So you know, you are going to have a few of those little issues. You are really purchasing a car that's in its infancies in comparison to other manufacturers. So the sound system is great in here. I quite like all the fit and finish. You know, there's not huge, nice stitching on the door handles. The wood, the minimalist look inside, I love. And the materials on the dash are good materials. So, you know, whilst if you sort of put it alongside a Mercedes, you could definitely point things out to say the Mercedes is nicer. I still think it's pretty good in here. The seats are really comfortable. You don't get any issues with the seats. In fact, about 9 months ago, myself and my son hired a Model S before I bought the Model 3. And we drove to Edinburgh, and again there's a card up there if you want to watch that very long video, so over an hour long, but it shows our road trip. During that trip we stopped off and saw a gentleman in a charging station in Edinburgh who literally just bought his Model 3, just picked his Model 3 up, and he let us sit in it. And the first thing we both noticed is how much more comfortable the seats are in the Model 3 in comparison to what was a 2014 plate Model S. So very comfortable. Seats are nice and big. You know, I'm a big chap, but they, you know, looks after me very well indeed. Very comfortable drive, very firm and comfortable drive. So, other than that little bit about fit and finish and a little bit about some of the panel misalignments, there are a lot of people, I should very quickly add, on the forums I'm part of that haven't had any issues with paint, haven't had any issues with panel alignments, and just had a perfect car. So it can be a little hit and miss. The thing to remember is that whatever you come across, you know, Tesla will sort it out. That's the good thing about it. They want the car to be right for you, and so they'll sort it out. I guess the only sad thing is those little things haven't been picked up by their quality control and pushed back through the line to be sorted before they're delivered to you. But don't worry about it, they'll sort it all out. So I think that's about it. I'm just coming in through the town, so I'm not far away from home now. I hope you found this video interesting. If you haven't bought a Tesla yet, then you know, hopefully it's given you a little bit of insight what it's like to drive one of these incredible cars. If you do own one, well then probably most of this will be completely you know, common to you. You'll know all about the pleasures of driving these cars. Do feel free to put some comments in the comment section on the video, and particularly if there's any particular parts you would like me to review on a video, or if there's any particular parts you'd like me to make videos on, then do put suggestions there, and I'll be happy to look at that and hopefully put some further videos online around different aspects of the car that you'd particularly like to find out about it. So for now, I'll sign out. Thank you very much indeed for watching what's been quite a long video. I might edit it down a tad, but thank you very much indeed for watching. I should also add, by the way, here we are, I don't know how many minutes through, 10 minutes or so. I still haven't touched the brake, and I probably won't now until I get home. So thanks very much for watching. Please do subscribe, please like the video, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.